Welcome to the Cherland podcast, where I, Cherland, meet up with a musician, hear about what makes them tick, figure out what kind of experiences they're bringing into their own musical journey, and on today's podcast we have Andrew Pelletier, aka Fur Trader, a songwriter, teacher, and composer who lives right down the street from me, coincidentally, in Los Angeles, and I did not even know that. Andrew has been making music of his own since high school and continues to make a daily practice of writing music, teaching others, and playing in other people's projects. In this episode, Andrew and I circle the topic of doing something every day just to get a little bit better, and I think he's done a great job of this throughout his life. If you like his vibe, I suggest you check out his new EP in April under his band name Fur Trader, which is actually Pelletier in French, although I'm mispronouncing that. Pronouncing? Yes. Enjoy Andrew Pelletier. Pelletier.
Sorry, Pelletier. I guess technically
Pelletier.
it's Pelletier, but I don't. I used to go by that when I was in college, but I don't do that anymore. But yeah, Pelletier,
Pelletier, like Peloton, but if you're crying.
Exactly. Actually, I actually did Peloton this morning.
Nice.
But Peloton, exactly. Pelletier on Peloton and on Peloton. Peloton.
Peloton. Peloton.
Yeah, Peloton sounds that's actually a cooler app.
Yeah,
I'm gonna hop on my Peloton bike
and watch Transformers. Is what it sounds.
There you
like.
go. Yeah, it's a very Marvel-y kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, Andrew Pelletier.
Yeah.
Great to talk with you. I'm so glad to know that we're basically next door neighbors.
That's wild.
Wonderful surprise.
Yeah, it's great. Thanks for having me, Connor. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. I enjoyed listening through. I mean, it's always just fun to snoop on people. I feel like I'm a pretty snoopy dude, just kind of by default. So it feels good to have the excuse to look through all of your Facebook posts, look through all of your SoundCloud, and obviously not all of them. My attention span's only so far. But
you didn't find my high school pictures on there.
No, that's what I should have done. I should always. I used to do the thing where I would look at your photos and then I would just click back instead of forward. So it'd take me to the first photo.
Yeah, it's funny. We have all of my my high school band photos are up there, and this is before Facebook because I wasn't. Facebook became a thing when I was a freshman in college, and it was only available through colleges at that time. So this would have been 2004, and so you could only access Facebook if you had a state university email. So I was at the University of Iowa, and so but all of my photos are still there on the same account that I had 20 years ago now. It's crazy. Yeah.
A lot of the messages still saved too.
The messages are still saved. Yeah. My wife and I actually she messaged me on Facebook. That's how we got together.
Whoa. That was the meet cute.
Yeah. It's still there, I think. Yeah.
While we're digging into the past a little bit, I always like to ask people about, different stages of themselves. You have the you that's you now, the family man, the music teacher, all this kind of stuff. And then there's the kind of you that was in college and then previously in high school. Can you give me some broad strokes of some of these stages and where you are now?
Yeah. So now I am obviously living in Los Angeles, and I moved here from Chicago, where I was in a band for many, many years, toured and made a lot of records with those people. And then I moved to Los Angeles with my now wife, and I make music here under the name Fur Trader, which is a translation of my last name, which is Pelletier, which means fur trader or trapper. Cool. No, actually it means fur trader, not trapper. So I moved here and kind of started a new project, and there's people that come in and out of the project as well. I have friends here that I play with and record with. And so that's kind of what I'm doing now. It's a lot more folky and acoustic than previous. In my band in Chicago was a pretty. It was pretty much a rock band.
Okay.
And so and then before that in Chicago was folk again, which was my college to middle 20s kind of situation where I played a lot of solo shows and toured a little bit, and was a Chicago folk kind of singer-songwriter. And then I started a band. And then before that was college. I went to school in Chicago at Columbia College, and I studied music. I played a lot during college, but not as much as I did post-college because I had to go to college. And so I studied music, and and played out and had a cool group of songwriter friends that I knew through college, and also just playing at coffee shops and bars and stuff in the city. And then before that, I was in my high school band, which was
Nice.
essentially a Dave Matthews Band ripoff. And we even had a saxophone player. Our drummer had like 40,000 drums, and like 40,000 cymbals.
I love that.
Our guitarist would play behind his head, solo. And he actually lives just down the street, and we'll probably listen to this now, but sorry, Mark. So, and then before that, I was writing songs for school, like in like middle school, for like every project there was to do, at the end of the year, or for some sort of like event, I would always write a song and perform it. So and then before that, I was doing the same thing. My parents were musicians, and so I would they were weekend warriors. They were public school teachers by the week, and then they would play pizza shops and bars in our little town in Illinois. We'd go to gigs. My sister and I would be dragged to these gigs, and we actually I loved going to them, but that's how I kind of learned to perform and play. And
I love looking back and cringing at youth, and playing a bass behind your head and having, it's very freaks and geeks to have the like 20-piece drum kit kind of a thing. What were some of your like overcompensating things as a youth, like overstretched metaphors, guitars with two necks?
I just think it was just this overwrought lyrics, all about like peace and love, anti-violence, like it was just it was very like very early 2000s hippie kind of stuff, which is very cringy right now, or cringeworthy. And then just overdoing it on stage, just dancing with my acoustic guitar, and I used to wear it really high, like I wanted to be David Matthews, and kind of ripping that off holistically. That was and I watch videos now, and I'm just like, oh my god, that's just so cheesy. It was fun, and some of the songs were like it was a good, it was a necessary exorcism in a way, just to get to a place of writing songs that mean something more than your local friend group, kind of, which that is an extremely important thing, and all songwriters need that. But being able to kind of get all that out of my system at an early age was good.
I always think that how we show ourselves is kind of like a pendulum. Like you're like trying to find yourself, and you're like, oh, I love the Dave Matthews thing, so I'm gonna go really far into the Dave Matthews. What was the contrary pull to the other side? Like, did you have like a really hyper restrained, like, I only wear black, I do not dance on stage, I don't even show up on stage?
Oh yeah, it was just a total a transformation happened when I went to college, and that band that I was in started to grow, and we started to become people that had musical taste that was outside the bounds of suburban America. And Wilco is like my favorite band, not only because they're from where I'm from, and I used to take lessons from the drummer and his dad on piano. Cool. But listening to Yankee Hotel Foxtrot and really understanding what that was as like a 18-year-old, maybe 17, 18-year-old, then I was like, oh my gosh, this persona that I have, this Dave Matthews, this like hippie kind of jam bandy guy, is just not at all who I am. And I sort of decided to become way more like artistically different and urban in a way. Like I was going to school in a big city, and it was the first time I had lived away from home, and so I became very much just a more thoughtful and personal songwriter, and wrote about things that affected me more than trying to fit lyrics into a musical situation that there was already cookie cutter for. And then I got into Bob Dylan, and then I was like, oh, this is how you write lyrics. Okay. Oh, gotcha. Like, this is how you play acoustic guitar. Okay. And so I sort of went full folk mode. So the band broke up, and I didn't want to play with a band anymore. I really wanted to write good lyrics and stories and characters that I was hearing in these in these songs and on these records.
Mm-hmm.
And I sort of became that. I grew my hair out.
Nice.
I started wearing like Bob Dylan suits,
Yeah.
and him and like John Prine, and I just got really into like solo acoustic people and like kind of like 3 chords and the Truth stuff. So
yeah,
although I used a lot more chords, but yeah,
that is quite the pendulum swing. I like to see it.
And then after that, I was kind of like, well, I don't want to play acoustic guitar and write folk songs at all anymore. Like I just didn't want to do that anymore. And then I started a band and was trying to do, we were like kind of like an indie rock band of like of that era of like the late 2000s, early 10s, I guess you would say. I don't know what the proper term is, but yeah. Sure. And so then we were kind of doing a lot more orchestrated, very dense music and layered production and stuff like that. So
Gotcha.
Yeah, and then that led me to where I'm at now.
Tell me a little bit more about writing. You said like writing characters into songs and then like singing as those characters. Is that what you were saying earlier?
No, not necessarily. Well, almost picking a character to be as an art or as a performer or as a writer, and then writing about other characters. So you're like, it's almost you're twice removed from things in a way. Like I don't really do that anymore, which is a good thing, I think, because I'm 37 now, so I should have my whole artistic situation together in terms of my voice and how I want to share it and how I want people to perceive it. But back then it was more of like, it was interesting because in high school I was Dave Matthews, and then in college I was Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
So but it wasn't the same exactly. It was a bit more honest in me throughout my Bob Dylan and John Prine years.
Yeah.
So, but picking in a way, like doing what Dylan did and kind of like picked a character to be, and then picked a character for the song, and then had sort of a dichotomy between those two people, and then he would change to a year later. He would be something completely different with a completely different set of songs that both sounded different and were lyrically just completely out of the blue.
I'm fascinated with the characters we choose for ourselves.
Yeah.
Like that's like a huge thing in video games. It's like a huge, like we love to pick out avatars for ourselves. Meaning that there's just like this lack of precision with the selves that we are walking around in the world. Moving to your current stuff, the fur trader stuff, which now with your last name, now it makes perfect sense. I'm like, oh gosh, that was staring me in the eyes.
No, that's fine. No, you shouldn't. Yeah. Don't worry. Yeah. I don't expect anyone to know it. And I sort of regret doing it because it's kind of like, oh, and then like people are like, oh, that's what it means. Okay. Yeah.
No, it's cool. It's like the city and color situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really like the artwork for the Johnny song that you're putting out. Double alligator, crocodile, alligator.
I don't know actually. I think it's
okay. Great.
I don't know. Who knows? Yeah.
Let's call them alligators for now.
Yeah, I definitely want it to be alligators because because the song takes place in Florida. But
yes, yeah. So can you tell me a little bit about because the artwork for the album is also very cool. I don't know what it is or references, but
I don't either.
It looks like something that like you found a piece of art and then manipulated that piece of art.
Yes, both of them are exactly that. The artwork for the Johnny Murphy song that just came out is honestly I found the image of those alligators, and it's actually kind of a pretty Googleable image, and it was like a free thing, and I was like, oh, this is perfect. And then I obviously put. I colored it and did some stuff. I'm not really a visual person, but this one, it was pretty easy to do.
Yeah.
The alligator eating the alligator, the snake eating the snake kind of thing. Which I guess is a very storied image throughout history, but I kind of just put that together. It was actually really quickly I put it together because I was like, oh, I should probably release a single from this EP that's coming out in April. And I was like, all right, I'll just do it in February. And then I found that image and I put it together. So it fits well. But the EP, the artwork that's on the EP that comes out is actually an artist named Erin Mullinex that I found actually through Instagram. She's a collage artist, and there's a really cool community and group of people on Instagram and obviously elsewhere that are doing this really specific type of collage art. And I don't know, I loved I was just looking through her page, and I loved the image that is on this EP, and I just reached out to her to see if I could use it, and she said yes, and she let me use it. So that image is, and it's not tampered with or anything. That is the actual. I mean, she cropped it to be a square, but that is the image. Yeah, I didn't touch anything on that. That is her artwork, 100%.
Tell me why you feel that image was connected with your songs.
It's very fragmented. I love the cream color. Some of the songs on the EP are pretty lo-fi and choppy. I would consider them a little bit choppy. Not in and of themselves individually, but I think it's very patchworky. I think they're all kind of different. Really, at first it was the colors of the image, the cream and the black, and the just like the ancientness of it. It's very like, I guess like Italian. It's very Renaissance-y, but it's not Renaissance in like the ornateness and like the Caravaggio kind of thing. It's like super cut and modern looking at the same time. And I don't know, the guy was chopped up, and I feel like a lot of the lyrics on this new EP are about me kind of shifting and changing into a new person because of post-COVID and getting married and having a kid, and it just seemed like me. I felt like I was inside of that image.
That's a wonderful answer. So it sounds like some of the themes are about being a new thing or having been changed by COVID. Do you have any interest in explaining some of that change that you had to go through?
Yeah, sure. A lot of it is actually I think the EP is a lot of it is a feeling or a sense of disappointment about re-entering the world and it being similar to where it was, even during COVID. You get used to that, and then you go out and you're sort of re-entering this world, and we're all doing the same thing. We're all trying to re-enter in the same way or in the same fashion that we were existing and going about our day-to-day lives pre-COVID, and the world is completely different, and it's just not the same. I don't even know how to explain it because I'm not very good with like verbal words. So I just don't know. I just know that it feels different, and I don't know what that is. Things seem harder. They seem harder to get. Roads seem harder. Going to like, in our neighborhood, going to like the Super A or going to Vons. It's hard. I don't know what it is, but it's just hard for me. So I think it's just this feeling like, oh, the world is opening up again. Everything's going to be the same. And then it's not. It actually is in a way harder. And then becoming a new father on top of that. About a year ago, my daughter was born, and that was at the same time that the world was opening up too. So I was changing, but also I couldn't do normal things regardless of if the world was opening up because I just became a father, and newborns are extremely difficult. So I couldn't interact with the world in the same way. So I think a lot of it was just feeling like, can I do this?
Yeah.
When is the world going to open up again for me specifically?
Yeah.
I'm still in that situation. Although I'm working on a lot of songs right now that are actually like post. So like I feel like this EP was kind of like that, and becoming a father, or being anxious about becoming a father, and then I'm writing songs about what it's actually like and what is happening truthfully about this situation now. And I don't know, it's just different.
I agree that things are different now. Things are harder now. I think that there's a worldwide, minor trauma that everyone incurred of feeling scared for reasons we didn't understand for a while. And you don't immediately, when you re-enter the world, be like, oh, okay, yeah, you can, like, I don't shake hands as quickly. I don't hug as quickly. I don't there was an innocence that used to exist and now does not exist. And
that's a great point. Yeah, that's in innocence. Yeah, I do. I feel a lot more I don't know, and it's tricky. Like I was talking to some friends or my friend about this on a walk a few months ago. But I don't know if it's my age or like where I'm at in my life that don't feel as I feel a lot less naive and I feel a lot less innocent and I always wanted to feel less naive because I was a pretty naive person and a pretty in the clouds kind of spacey person and imaginative person, and I guess you can say, and now I don't feel like that as much. I feel very grounded and I feel very grounded and not, and that's a good thing, but it's also like I miss feeling spontaneous, and I miss feeling, and again, I don't know if that's my age and it's because I'm a new father or if it's because of COVID or all of the above. It's just it's a very strange place to be. I get a little bit more anxious about going out and even to like experiencing new things. Like next week I'm going to record some bass on a session in Oakland, and I want to do it, and I'm super excited to do it, and my friend asked me to come up and play, and I'm so grateful and honored, but I'm like freaking out about it because it's new. I'm leaving my house, I'm leaving my daughter, my wife, I'm leaving my studio, I'm leaving my students. I teach music and kind of like changing, and it's only 4 days, like 4 days, but I'm freaking out about it, and it's what I want to do. I want to play music, and I want to play on people's records, and that's great, but I'm looking forward to it, but I'm just like, I don't know how I'm going to do it in a way, and before the pandemic, I would have just been like, I would have been like, yep, here I go, and I'm off, So it's things are just so much more calculated, and I don't know, and anxious now. But it's one of those things where I'll probably go and I'm going to be like, oh, this is amazing. I want to do this all the time, and then and so it's going to be good for me, but it's it's like exactly. Pushing yourself to do these things, like playing shows, like I'm anxious and I'm fearful of playing shows again. And I don't know why, but I think it was because I started to play shows right before the pandemic, and it was it was incredible and fun. And then the pandemic hit and I was like, no more shows. And so I'm starting to crawl back to that area, but it's a lot. Sorry.
No, I do think it's a lot to work through, and I think one of the biggest pieces is like being a father and like feeling that draw, like when it's just you and your wife. I've been married now 6 years. It's like easy to be like, okay, I can leave you at home. You can take care of yourself. I'm not worried. I just go, and then I'll see you in a day. Not a big deal. I'll see you in 3 days. Not a big deal. You can take care of yourself. You have friends. I can call you. The daughter can't, too young to FaceTime with you, If someone needs something, there is a real shifting of responsibility between you and your wife that you have to be like, all right, I'm going to need you to carry a little bit for 4 days, really carry. And
totally. Yep. Yeah. And she works full time too, and it's kind of like, shoot.
You're adding heaps of logistical
stuff
on top of every small plan.
Yep,
so
totally.
What used to feel like small, because it was small, and now it's not.
Yep, so. That's an incredible and as a superb point. Like even playing shows, it's like it seems so complicated for me right now, and it's because everything else is really complicated in my life. And it used to be like, I'll just go play, or exactly, like I'll just leave for a few days, it's fine. But there is so much logistics, and I'm not good with logistics. It's not part of my purview. It's not part of my brain. I'm a pretty kind of very right brain person, and logistics and type A personality stuff is not. My wife is, thank God, but I am not at all. So.
Well, you would have fooled me because you teach a million music lessons.
Teach
every
a lot.
Day, it seems.
It's getting. I mean, it's not. It's consistent. Pretty much dated from Monday through Friday. I'm teaching around 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Whether that's 4 lessons or 8 lessons. Yeah, so
that's a lot of lessons.
It's a lot of lessons. So I've been doing this for I think a little bit too long. So
what all do you teach? Because it seems like you can play kind of everything.
I can play things, but I wouldn't. Yeah, I teach piano and guitar mostly. And then some beginner drums, and then I teach some songwriting and composition type stuff to adults. That's about it. Yeah, that's it right now. Yeah.
Okay. since you've been doing that for so long, I have to ask you about learning, because I'm always trying to figure out pitfalls in learning.
Yeah.
There's always the like first little lift when you learn a little bit and everyone's really excited. And then there's that thing where you look down the dark chasm and you're like, God, there's just endless knowing and no end in sight. And then there's a little bit of applied knowledge that happens like a few months out where you're like, oh, I see the benefit of learning this thing. Can you tell me about like how you see students get out of that valley of despair quicker, or like certain practice techniques that you have employed yourself, or really tell your students to do things that help you get out of ignorance and into practicality?
Yeah. So I would say that most of my students are kids. So I wouldn't say that kids are entirely motivated to get better at piano, and I think that's part of why I'm a little frustrated right now too. Is it was fine for many years, and I don't know, I'm just sort of, I want more results, or I want to work and see people start applying it to their lives. And some of the students that I've been with for like 10 years now are like doing that. So some of them are in high school or college. These are kids still, and they're starting to like get into music production, right?
Cool.
And stuff like that. But to your question, I should probably make the analogy for a student of mine that I do more songwriting and maybe a little bit of writing or composition with, and he's an adult, and his name is Sebastian, and he makes music, and he makes like ambient compositional stuff and minimal and stuff, but he very much a pandemic project, right, where I had been teaching him for many years, like on guitar and a little piano and learning songs and whatnot, and he's got a lot of gear, and he's like a synth guy, and he's got a lot of cool old guitars, and so I think with the pandemic hit, and he wanted to start making his own music,
right?
And at first I was kind of like, cool, but because I was getting a lot of that, I'm sure like just a lot of people reaching out to do projects, to do things from home, and so it was kind of like, okay, he'll probably do this, and it'll be like a month, maybe 2 months, and then
it'll be like a sourdough starter.
Yep. And then I probably won't hear from him again, and this and that. But he was like just completely dedicated to this, and still is. But he gets really down on himself about what he's doing and his progress, specifically his progress. It's interesting because I would say that in order to overcome the pitfalls of that hole that you're talking about, or that getting to that next place, whether it's with music or whoever, or your personal life or emotional life or whatever, but it's just doing the same thing differently for a long time.
Yeah.
Like he just writes music every day.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is not great, and a lot of the stuff that I write on a daily basis is not great, but there's these little gems in there that wouldn't exist if it wasn't for all of that maybe mediocre, or maybe like ideas that just weren't fleshed out, right? And he has this enormous amount of amazing music that I'm trying to get him to share with the world, but it's not.
Yeah.
He's just doing it on his own time, and that's great. I think it's just him dedicating himself to the idea of getting to that place. I don't know. I don't sound like a self-help coach or something. Yeah. It's just the same thing with anything in life. Is just you got to do it every day, or at least dedicate 3 times a week to doing it.
Yeah.
And also having, obviously having goals. And like I had a recital here at the house in the front yard in December with all my kids, students, and honestly it was just so marvelous because they did so well. We hadn't had a recital since COVID, so I didn't know. I thought it was going to be a complete disaster, but I don't know. It was something about kids being a little bit nervous, working extra hard at it, practicing way more than they ever do because they don't really practice in the normal world. Right. So if there's a goal, it's kind of like, okay, well, we got to practice. And then the parents kind of get involved and putting a limit on, saying, okay, I'm going to write this amount of songs by this date, or I'm going to learn this song and play it by this date, and then doing it and then assessing where you're at from there and picking out the good stuff. And the kids did great. There was a few things here and there that weren't awesome, but overall it was fantastic, you know. And it's the same with that student that I teach. Like overall, his songs are amazing and incredible. And there are a few that aren't, but you know, they wouldn't exist without the other.
Yeah. So I'm hearing like a bit of practice involves like let there be a purpose for the practice, meaning like some sort of external pressure where you have to show up.
Yep.
And
like the guy that I was talking about, he decided to go to he's in Chicago, but he decided to fly to Oakland, book some time at a studio in Oakland, Tiny Telephone. Spent 5 days, and I drove up, and we just made music for about 5 days. Some of it he had before, and we were just kind of adding to or starting from scratch on these compositions. But a lot of it was we got to the studio and we were like, okay, what are we feeling today? And he would maybe plunk something on the piano or on a synth, and we would just build a song all day. And that's the project.
Wow.
And he's going to release that soon. And that was a little over a year ago. But the songs on there they're great. They're so cool. But it was because, and he was so nervous. Oh my God, he was so nervous going into this session and didn't feel like he was worthy of doing it. And I was like, oh my gosh, no, we're going to go there. We're all on team. We're going to do this together. Yeah. And it was like one of the best weeks of his life and my life too. It was wonderful. Yeah. And so I think that was super helpful. Then he got home and you start to get back into those habits of like, oh, am I doing good work? Am I doing this? But then we're going to do another session in the summer. And so it's just, there's a little bit more to look forward to and some more things to work on musically that we're excited to do when we're together. Yeah. So. Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. The external force, not only does it keep you accountable, but it seems like it boosts your energy. Yeah. Because now you're not alone just spiraling about art that you don't think is great. It's like you can make 100%. But you're way more likely to troubleshoot it.
Yeah.
If you're there in person paying the money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's exactly it of the spiral when you're alone. I mean, collaboration is so key to a lot of things, and it's one thing that I really need to get back into is collaborating with people. And yeah. Yeah.
How do collaborations normally go for you? Or I also have other questions about, I kind of want to go back into fatherhood because
sure.
Everything logistically has increased in difficulty, including just writing at all. Like, can you tell me about how becoming a father has changed your writing practice?
Yeah, writing has actually become easier. I wouldn't say lyrically easier. I think the practice of writing songs has changed for me in that I only have a limited time to do it. We have her in daycare now, which is really, really great, just down the street here. So I drop her off in the morning, and then I have a few hours before I start teaching music to work on music or write music. She gets home around 5:30, and I'm usually still teaching, but then we have to do the bedtime routine, and I'm just, by the end of the day, I'm just exhausted. I used to write it at night, but now I write in the mornings. Yeah. And it's actually been awesome. It's a very sobering thing in the morning, you know, and
the lights are on, everything.
Yeah. The lights are on, the sun. I mean, luckily we live here, so like in the wintertime I could sit in the porch and write, but which I don't do enough. But I think that it's changed me to become way more of a daily songwriter. Like for years and years, I would have these ideas that I would then flesh out when the time came. I would work on like about 10 songs at one time, and I had a verse of one song and a chorus of another, or vice versa. And I would just not, and it was just the way that I worked, but I always got the song out when it needed to be out. And with the band, It was like I would bring just nuggets of things in, and then we would write the whole song and arrange it all together, and then go into the studio and record it. And so it was just a very strange, fragmented way of writing. But now I'm very much way more linear about it, and sort of forcing myself to start it and finish it, because I have to do it, or else I'm just going to keep piling these songs up, and then I'll never finish them because my time right now is limited, you know. Yeah. And I don't really have a band right now, and I'm not touring, I'm not really playing out right now, so I have a lot of time to write, and if I just let that go on, I will never finish anything. So yeah, so and then I finish a song, and then I just lay it down here and kind of create a bed work in Pro Tools, and then build from there. And sometimes it builds into something that I like, and sometimes it doesn't build into anything.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But then I spend the next week or two working on like the arrangement of it and the sonic elements of it, and adding piano and drums and then I'm done, and then I start a new one, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah. So it's definitely compartmentalized my songwriting, and in a really, really cool way.
Because there is less time, or the time is more compressed, do you feel very precious about the time, or is there like a panic that there isn't enough or anything like that, or does it just feel good because it feels like I have my set time, I check in and I get to check out, and that's all that was available for it?
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like I would have been I would have been in a panic a few years ago with things like that.
Yeah.
But now I think that with the implementation of my learning how to record for years, and essentially when I moved to Los Angeles, I started to get a little bit more serious about recording. And then the pandemic happened, and then I got really serious, like we all did. So I think just having things plugged in, ready to go, having my guitars ready to go, and in a space like this where I can come and create is just so different than having my guitar in the living room and then having a practice space 5 miles away, where the only way that I would be able to make noise is if I got in my car and went to the practice space,
Right.
and played, or showed somebody else a song that I was working on. And so I think just the having access to almost like an immediate song after writing it has just changed everything for me. And I'm at the point too where I'm like sort of feeling better about the things and the sounds that I'm getting, and it takes a lot of years. I feel I'm still like not even there yet whatsoever, but I feel comfortable enough to where it's becoming more fun. Songwriting has always been fun for the most part. Like writing the song itself, I can do, but then it's like, how do I present this song to someone, or how do I present it to myself? Like, what is it gonna be? I have no idea. So I think that I'm sort of like that. Recording the song is now part of my songwriting process, whereas before it was I'd play it and live, or I'd play it a lot. And then once it was done and all the parts were there, I would go into the studio and record. But that's not always the case. Like you might have a guitar part or a piano part that just doesn't fit when you're listening to it through a microscope or through a lens. And so I think having the ability to try things every day has been really profound for me. I don't know if that's good, if the stuff is good or not, but I think that the process is I've just completely changed the process, how I work. So
I fear that I will have to go into that same realm of, like, now that I've moved to LA, taking recording more seriously. For someone about to start that journey, how would you recommend they start?
So where what has your experience been prior to this in terms of recording yourself or studio work?
I write the songs, I play the songs out, and then I talk with a buddy or a producer about, like, here's some reference tracks, here's kind of what I want it to sound like, and then we actually get in studio, put it to a click, make sure everything's really tight, pick all the chords, and then drums, bass, the whole nine with producer, and these are all like home studio spaces.
That's great. I mean, so are you talking about like doing something in where you're at right now, like physically?
Yeah, like starting to record good stuff for real on your own.
Man, where would I start? I mean, my process has just been, it's, do you have an interface? Do you have microphones and stuff?
So technically I have all the things.
Okay.
I've used all the things. So now it's just a figuring out how to make it sound right.
Yeah. I would say do it a lot. as this seems to be the theme here today, but
yeah,
do the acoustic guitar part to your song and
yeah,
record it, like put a mic at the 12th fret
yeah,
and then record the song. Listen to it. Cool. If you like it, cool. Maybe do another track of the same thing so you have two. And then I would say like maybe move the mic somewhere else or add another mic behind it or at the back of the guitar or and then record the same song with this in the same way and then listen to that and save all of them and then maybe try a different guitar with the same song.
yeah.
Do the same thing where you have one mic, new guitar, and then two mics, new guitar, and then maybe get an electric guy and play. And you're just hearing what the song is sort of wanting to be, rather than I used to do it where I'm like, okay, this is it, right? Like, this is the take, this is the guitar, this is the microphone, this is where I want. Like, this is it, and it's over. And man, and I look back and I'm like, why wouldn't I have just moved the mic back a little bit? Like I listen to some acoustic stuff. I'm like, that there needs to be air in that, but that was what I did. And then I learned that, well, can't really take that one down now. It's kind of out there and I probably shouldn't have done that. So now I'm very cautious about making sure, but I'm also leaving myself a little bit of room to work, right? Where I'm not, it doesn't need to be the take every time, like sometimes I'll do the acoustic like I'm talking about with these different mics and then I'll just pick one, not think about it too much, and then I'll add the bass and maybe some drums or piano and some pads or something, I don't know, and then get a scratch vocal in and then I'm like, okay, maybe those guitars don't work, but then you have other options to kind of put in. Or you can start from scratch once you've built the song with drums, bass, piano, vocals, or whatever. You can kind of say, okay, now I can see where the acoustic could go and what I want it to sound like, and then you kind of like mold it from there. So it's just keep doing it, keep experimenting and trying things out, trying songs different ways. Getting drums too, like you could use Logic or whatever, some sample drums just to get a feel, because drums are extremely hard and important. And if they're not right, the song isn't right. So
okay, cool. Is it okay if I ask you some questions, some like a generic questions I ask everybody real quick?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Any books that you've read in the last couple months that have been months, years, whatever you want? I don't know your reading schedule.
Yeah.
That have been meaningful to you.
I'm currently about to finish Here, There, and Everywhere by Jeff Emmerich, the Beatles recording book.
Oh, cool.
That has just it's one of those things where I've tried to read it years and years ago, and it's just life, I just couldn't read at that time in my life, but now I have a little bit more time, and so I'm reading that book, and it's so good. It's just so good. It's just about how he got involved with EMI and Abbey Road and his first assignment with the Beatles, which was the first day they started recording Revolver, and then all the way through their breakup and into him working with like Paul McCartney's solo stuff. And it's really cool. And it's cool. Such an interesting take on music itself and the engineering process. And I mean, he was really the first engineer to do anything creative and break rules, and I feel like we're all sitting here today because of him, in a sense, and then also like the politics of London and like very mid-century British lifestyle back, and then how it was just changed, how everything just changed in the mid-60s is just fascinating. Anyway, and then there's a Ted Chiang, he's a short story writer. His short stories, I think they're called The Story of Your Life and Others. That's the name of the collection. But did you see that movie Arrival with, it's about the aliens?
The alien movie? Yeah.
Amy Adams and Jeremy Renner. Anyway, that movie is based off a short story by Ted Chiang, and it's a beautiful story. Okay, cool. And I mean, it's essentially the same story. But the way that he writes about like a lot about like philosophy of technology and I just got his newer collection. I'm gonna read that after this Jeff Emmerich book. But yeah,
love that. Do you have a best or worst gig that you want to share?
The worst gig I ever played was with my band in South by Southwest, and I think it was our first year going. So this would have been like 2011 or 12. We had a few really great shows there, well attended, on 6th Street or 6th Avenue, whatever it is. They were really fun and exciting. And then, so we kind of like thought that every single one of them would be like that. And then, so then we got asked to play this show at Buffalo Exchange, which is that, the secondhand clothes store. And we thought it would be like inside, be people, like a designated area for a band, and we showed up and they had no idea that there was a band that was supposed to play.
Oh my gosh.
So they had to call some guy to get like a speaker and a mixer and set up in the parking lot, and there was no one. The shop wasn't even open. I mean, because everyone was at South by Southwest. They weren't at this. And so we played to like our guitarist's uncle, I think he showed up, and it was just it was a very, very trying experience for us. So there's probably, there's so many bad ones. Honestly, there was probably worse ones that I'm just not recollecting right now, but yeah.
Any best or worst advice you've received about your music career?
Man, that's a good question. Man, I don't even feel like I have a career in music, so it's not even, which is maybe because I've just been constantly getting given bad advice. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. I think one of the best advices is from an old bandmate of mine that I was feeling really discouraged by, the trajectory of the band and the success of the band. And I think that the music that I make is definitely it wouldn't be considered like orthodox music in a conventional sense. And I've never really written orthodox kind of immediate music. I've always, I don't know, it's just not the way I write. And so my friend had said to me, like, don't expect orthodox results for an unorthodox approach to art. I think that separating and really it speaks to a larger idea of separating your artistic vision and output from success, right? Like, what is success? Like, some of my friends that have followed my musical path and have always supported and for the most part liked everything I've done would consider me successful because I'm still doing it. And whether it's for them or my mom or my uncles and aunts, whatever, I'm still doing it. And so in their eyes, I'm a successful musician, but I wouldn't necessarily say that. But so I think it's that it's like, you really, and it's something that I have to think about every day, but really separating what our conventional idea of success is with artistic success, or personal success. Cause it's really just about growing as a person, I think, and trying to use music to facilitate that and tell a story about hopefully getting better.
I think finding your artistic vision and sticking to it is the kind of the whole goal. So if you're continuing to do that as you age, ideally that becomes a great story. Those are all the questions that I have for you. You have an EP coming out in April. Do you want to do a quick plug? Sure.
Yeah, I have an EP that's coming out April 14th. It's a Friday. It's called Stuck in the Aching Again. And it's a collection. It's like 5 songs, really 4. There's a little a cappella thing at the end. That I've recorded in the past year, similar in theme to what we've been talking about today about re-entering the world and becoming or learning about a significant change in my life and wondering how I'm going to interact with that and how I'm going to deal with that. Yeah, and that's it. I released a song a few weeks ago that's out now, and it's one of the songs on the EP, and it comes out April 14th. That's about it.
Great. Andrew Pelletier, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Connor. I really appreciate you talking, and your questions were really, really wonderful, and we should hang out sometime.
Yeah.
We're so close. We go to we go to Checker Hall a lot, and
okay, great.
My friend, one of my best friends here works at Goldline.
Oh, sweet.
He's a bartender there.
Great.
Yeah, so we should do something.
Yeah, let's do any of those things. Thank you kindly for listening to the podcast. It's really just an excuse for me to meet amazing people and learn from them. So if you like this episode, feel free to take a look at some of the other artists I've talked to, or let me know if there's someone in your life who's a musician that you'd like me to talk to next. You can learn more about my music at connorcherland.com or find me on Instagram or Spotify under Connor Cherland, ConnerCherland. All right, see ya.